The Cal Bear, look at that skateboard. He's made his way around the NFL, sort of following Kyle Shanahan around, if you will. The current San Francisco 49er having a great season, joining us on Stacking the Box, courtesy of Special Olympics. Alex Mack, we really appreciate you taking time, and yet another, hopefully for you, Pro Bowl season to be. Congrats on your success this year.
Oh, thank you. It's been a fun year so far. We've had a couple ups and downs, but we're in the hunt, and our offense is doing well, and we just got to keep plugging away.
I feel like this may be a little too hyperbolic, but you know how to handle a up season as well as a down season, perhaps as well as anyone in the NFL right now, right? I mean, the struggles in Cleveland were long and lengthy, and then you end up in Atlanta and you're in the Super Bowl, and then you lose one of the most famous Super Bowl games of all time. And now, back in the mix here, fighting for a playoff spot with San Francisco. So you've in essence, you've experienced it all, right?
The full spectrum, or almost the full spectrum. But yeah, it teaches you a lot in terms of being in up and down years and good teams, bad teams. And the like lesson I always took away was like, you can't control a lot of it. You just have to take care of your own business, put in the work, do it every day, and, be as good of a player as you can be. And that is the best way to help your team.
You spent 7 years beginning of your career in Cleveland, and that was a team, obviously, it was known for having dysfunction at the time, not having a ton of success. But I want to actually touch on
never boring. It was never
No, it was not. We're going to get there. But one of the things that always fascinated about that team looking back is you guys had a great offensive line. I mean, if you really go back and look, yourself, Joe Thomas, Mitch Schwartz, I believe Joel Bitonio was on that line. Like, that line was one of the best in the league. And usually that portends success, like at least to some extent. Of course, it didn't. Part of that having to be because of who lined up behind you all those years. But I mean, you look back, you ever think about that? Like, man, how the hell did we not have more success considering how good we were up front?
We had a really good group. And it was one of those things when you go back to like taking care of business. We were, early in the career, we weren't winning games, and we'd come every day in the O-line room, and, we put together some really good games, and like we did a really good job. And just as a team, it didn't fit together that week. And we're like, all right, well, we can do a little bit better. Like we didn't all play perfectly. And so we ended up really through the grind of it all, honing, working hard every week, and like really trying to get better and trying to like do scratch for every inch just to get that little bit, put us over and get a win. And I think that really helped, develop a lot of talent and skills. And as a group, we really had a good group of guys there, and we played some really good ball, just didn't win games.
I got to ask a Johnny Manziel question. If he, Alex, in your mind, if he had spent his time in the film room, had kale and was doing Pilates and just like did everything you could possibly do right, do you think he would have been successful as an NFL quarterback?
I'm not a real quarterback guy to figure out what it takes and what it doesn't. I do know that there's a lot of guys with a lot of talent in this league that just didn't put the work in, and they're no longer in the league. And there's guys with less talent that really focus on the details, and they know what's going on, and they've been incredible players. And I would say, for most guys, if you really put the work in, you can, grind out a career in the league.
For all those years you spent in Cleveland, then we'll move on, because obviously you've had a great success both in Atlanta and now San Francisco. But what you have one story that you just look back and go, that epitomized those years in Cleveland? Whether it was a coach, a quarterback, a teammate, or whatever the case, and you look back and go, man, that's it. That right there, that story sums it all up.
There's a good number of different stories. I just think the year we had Chudzinski, we were coming into the last game of the year, and there was like a rumor that he was going to get fired. And we're like, no way, he's it's the first year. Like, you can't do anything. We're doing all right. we're building here. And then sure enough, they fired him on the bus ride back. And we're like, oh God, this again. And it was just a real tough. It's tough to make the hard decision of sticking with a coach and giving your team consistency. And, sometimes it's the right move to move on and sometimes it's not. But, it seemed like for my whole career in Cleveland, it was always switching things up, moving around, changing coaches, changing GMs. And it's just tough to win that way. It's hard to build consistency and really learn a system when things are changing all the time. And it just, that was tiring for sure.
This is a question should be difficult to answer, but like it's always the question in the NFL. Like last night, the Patriots threw the ball 3 times, and people are just talking about how great of a coach Belichick is and the Belichick and Brady conversation. And now you're teeing up just different coaches. And I'm wondering, to me, it's always been if you have talent, and guys, let's say doing it the right way, you're gonna win football games. But in your mind, like, what is the value of having a coach, maybe like Kyle Shanahan, who really knows what they're doing? Like, how much impact can even if the talent is not as high, how much impact in your mind can a great coaching staff have on a team?
A huge amount. I think not to judge talent up or down, but the ability for the coaching staff to get people motivated on the same page in a system that they thrive in, ask them to perform tasks and, techniques that they're good at. That's all part of developing a team and drafting the right people and coaching your guys up and putting them in positions and knowing your squad and how to use them. And I think that's something that Kyle does really well. I think it's a system of offense that I really like and I play really well in. And so when he was in Cleveland as the OC, and I was like, this is amazing. And then he left, went to Atlanta, and then I was a free agent. I was like, I know I like that system. I want to go back there. And then, 1 year in Atlanta with me, go to the Super Bowl, then he goes to San Francisco. And so this is the 3rd time where I'm a free agent. And it's like, that's a system I like. That's a coach I know, and I want to go there.
At what point, after all the years in Cleveland, you sign with a 5-year deal with Atlanta, and you get there and immediately go to the Super Bowl, and it's a great offense, one of the greatest offenses in NFL history by a lot of statistical measures, right? Like, how long did it take you after all that losing to be like, man, we're winning like a lot of games. Like, we're really good. Like, this could be a team that is not just going to be a playoff team, but could really challenge for something special.
My memory of that year is that we were kind of okay for the first half of the year. And then we got hot at the end of the year. Like we figured it out and we really hit our stride, towards the back half of the season. And it wasn't until the last like 2 or 3 games where you're like, wow, we're really in the hunt here. And we ended up, getting a first round bye that year, I think. Yep. And that was a very close thing. So like we were very much in the hunt, kind of, okay, we're doing pretty well. And then all of a sudden, like, we have a bye. It happened fast. But I remember it with that year was the first time as a player I had won more than 5 games. In Cleveland, the 1 year we had Kyle, I think we won 7, but I was on IR for, that 6th win. And so I was like, this is the big moment, guys.
I was looking at 2 years with Eric Mangini, 5-11. Shermer comes in 4-12. Your quarterbacks are Colt McCoy, Brandon Whedon. Here comes Jason Campbell, Brian Hoyer, Johnny Manziel. I mean, your OCs, you ran through a ton of them. John DeFilippo on the back end. You had Norv Turner. You had Brad Childress. I mean, they were searching real all far and wide.
It was never boring. I mean, it taught me a lot. I have a lot of experience now. I've learned a lot of different offenses. I've worked with a lot of different coaching staffs. I go to different teams and there's all kinds of people. I mean, it helps when you play a long time. But you visit other teams and after the game or before the game, you see the coaches and you're like, oh, yeah, how are we doing? And like, I know more coaches than players now, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, that'll happen as the career goes on. I wanted to ask you personally. I mean, you now look, you're in your age 36 season. You've been in the league for closing in, not quite yet, but almost 15 seasons here. I believe this is what, year 13?
13.
And 6 Pro Bowls, 3 second-team All-Pros, and at a position that's very hard to make All-Pro because obviously there's 2 guards, 2 tackles, only 1 center. You're on the All-Decade team, which is an extremely high honor and one that portends being in the Hall of Fame very often. Do you ever think about that? And don't just give the couch answer of like, no, I never stopped thinking about that. Because that's such BS. Most guys say that. We know it's not true. But do you ever stop and just go, man, I've had a great career. And like at some point, my name's going to be up for Canton and I've got a real shot to get there.
I mean, every day I try hard. I'm taking care of my body. Like being good at football is very boring. It is a tough slog of a season and it is hard to do the little things and focus on the details and every week. And the legacy I want to leave is why I do the work I do. I want to be known as a certain type of player and have my teammates speak highly of me and coaches to really, respect what I do. And all that combines into, what you leave behind you when you leave this league. And so that's something that I really believe in. And every time I put on the film, I want it to be look one way. And I take a lot of pride in that. And all those accolades kind of reflect that attitude, I think.
You underlined the Kyle Shannahan a couple times. Well, what was that conversation like going into this season, like deciding that, yeah, I'm going to go to San Francisco?
It was tough, like the NFC West is not an easy place to come play. It's a really tough division with a lot of good defenses, and that was not enticing. I think it being in California was nice and like the location. And, I think it came down to the system and who I knew Kyle was as a coach and the style he brings and how he speaks to the team and, just the type of person he is and the people he brings around and where I could play the best offense and where I could be the best version of myself and hit the ground running. And I think San Francisco was the right place for me.
I'm curious. I'm curious because this year, just like last year, with everything going on with the pandemic, I mean, it's been so challenging, not only, of course, in NFL life, just in regular life, things have been going on. And I think the NFL really on the whole, as not only the league, but players have done such a good job of navigating it. How much harder has the pandemic made it on you as a player? Just trying to navigate it, every once in a while, hey, all of a sudden somebody's on the list. They can't play this week or they can't practice all week. How hard has that been for you guys?
It's been tough. It's been hard to scout teams, know what's going to happen. And guys are up, guys are down. Are they down? Are they coming back? And they're on film. They're not on film. So that's been a challenge. I think not to complain, but I think the tough thing is it's just last season with all the very heightened protocols and really not the fear of the unknown really sucked a lot of the fun away. It just became very hard to enjoy football when you couldn't see your teammates. And we kind of got rid of the locker room. And so it was only work and there was no fun at all about socializing with the guys and bonding, and you couldn't go out and you had to stay at home all the time. And, I think that probably reflected a lot of people feeling that way up just about, last year. But it made it tough to really enjoy football.
How do you size up this season for you guys, Alex? I mean, a lot of people were picking you and then you had a slower start, now coming back into it right now in the thick of the playoff race. We're in the hunt. We've had our ups and downs. We've had some close games that, didn't go our way. And with all that said, we're in the hunt. All you need is a ticket to the show. We just got to keep playing good ball and win the next couple games and, stay in the playoff picture. And then it's about getting hot in January, making sure you play your best ball at the end of the year. And, when it comes to one and done, just keep winning those games.
I mentioned earlier how long you've been in the league, and I'm curious. You played in the AFC, you played in the NFC, 3 different divisions. Who are some of the guys, maybe, a couple, 2 or 3 names, that guys that when you lined up against me, like, man, this day is going to suck. This guy's a pain in the ass to block, physical, maybe he's even a little dirty. Like, who are some guys you're like, just this is not a week I'm looking forward to?
I mentioned earlier, like the NFC West, playing Aaron Donald is not fun. He's a good player. He deserves all the accolades he gets, and he's a problem for, offenses. And so, like, that's a guy that you don't love playing against just because he's very talented and he can do some really special things. I remember back in the AFC North days, Haloti Ngata was he's a special guy. He's huge and moves really well. And that was always not a fun adventure. There's always guys that are hard to deal with, that are big loads, and, makes it a long Sunday.
So it's interesting that you say Donald, and not interesting in that everybody gives Aaron Donald props, but like, we've interviewed him at the Super Bowl, and he was working, I think, with Snickers at the time, and he walks up and I'm like, that's him? Like, he doesn't, you're 6'4", 311. If I didn't know who you were, I'm like, this guy's got to play football or something's going on. With Aaron Donald, he doesn't look like he's like the best defensive lineman. Like, what is it, the speed that makes him so tough?
Yeah, he's quick, explosive. He's pretty talented. He has a great, movement and slippery. He's very dynamic, and it's hard to pin down. I think I chose Haloti and Aaron Donald because they're opposite sides of the spectrum. Halot's massive and moves pretty well. Aaron is a bit smaller, but moves a lot better. He's just hard to get your hands on, and you can, go real quick, and it's just, speed's hard to beat.
I remember I was fortunate enough in my college days to cover a few games from the sideline, just working as an absolute nobody for ESPN and basically getting Emmitt Smith his coffee. And they let me stand on the sideline. And I remember there was a game, in fact, the first one, Dallas and Buffalo, right? Actually, well, you would have been in college at the time too. I don't think people understand, like, the speed at which those guys move, despite the fact they're 300 plus pounds. Like, I remember watching some of those guys on the interior, and it sounded like a car crash, and guys just jump up. Like, I remember a couple years later, Vince Wilfork, like, seeing him down on the field in person and being like, I can't imagine how anybody blocks this dude ever. Like, he's got to be pushing 350, and yet is like nimble as a cat, like getting down the line of scrimmage. Like, how is this even possible? And the only reason I bring that up is, to Carm's point with Donald, I interviewed him at the Super Bowl the year they played the Pats. And it's true. Like, I remember walking up to him. The guy can't have more than like 7% body fat. And yet he's like taking on double teams and just wailing guys who are 330 pounds. The amount of an athlete that you have to be to play at that position, and certainly, play on the O-line, play on the line, is just spectacular to me. I think, compared to what most people think of, oh, well, he's 320. He can just anchor. There's a lot of people who are 320 pounds who can't anchor, who can't move like that. It really is. It's something to behold with some of these guys.
Yeah, offensive line, in terms of what we are asked to do, is an interesting dynamic, because you can't if you're just big and you can't move, you're no good. You have to be able to move, and if you're just great at moving, then maybe you're not big enough. And so there's this weird dynamic there, and then just the technique of offensive line is very difficult. Like, you're one of the few positions in sport where you're not looking at the ball. It's behind you doing something you don't know. And so you're looking outwards, and you're hoping people are where they think they are. Your feet are apart. You're trying to, bench press standing up. It's just a lot of really awkward things that goes on with offensive linemen. Or if you're a receiver, like, you're running. A little oversimplification for a receiver. I have a lot of respect for those guys, but everyone knows how to run.
I do a Bears post-game show in Chicago, Alex, on the radio, and one of the guys that I do it with, he's in his 80s. He played in the 60s. Ed O'Bradovich, complete lunatic. And the Bears have had their struggles on the offensive line, and what he keeps on yelling for is they should do fire-out blocking to allow the guys to attack and not sit back and just be the first to engage. what do you think of that strategy for yourself? Like, do you prefer
to pass blocking?
Well, I mean, I think they're saying it, and he's saying it, and like these guys, if they go backwards, they got no chance. They're just going to get run over. So like, how do you strategize for in that situation? But sure, even in pass blocking, do you like to be the aggressor? How do you look at that?
I mean, a couple different ways to answer the question. In terms of like what, as an offensive lineman, and something I think this offense does well in San Francisco is just being a very run-heavy team and establishing the run game, controlling the time, controlling the clock, setting up play action through the threat of being able to run the ball effectively. And then you can really take a lot of the bite out of the defense because they're not just, no, it's a pass, pinning the ears back and, running downhill at you. And so that is something as a lineman I really like doing. But in terms of pass protection, you try to mix up your sets and stance and, try to keep people guessing. And if you always do the same thing, the defense is going to learn that and try to really attack you. So you try to keep your offense very dynamic and not let them know exactly what's going on and, take advantage of that.
Again, speaks to coaching. Go ahead, Varram.
No, I was going to say, actually speaking to switching up and being different, one of the guys I've always been fascinated with, and he's not playing right now, though, if you ask him, he's not retired either, Mitch Schwartz, who, of course, your former teammate. And if you watched him, especially I got to see a ton of him in Kansas City over the years, he would set guys up for days with moves, a lot of, show his hands and pull them back. Guys would swipe it there. He'd get leverage. Something the Hamilton move, which he loves to do all the time, right? That technique. How long did it take you into your NFL career before you felt like you had enough tools in the bag? All right, I don't care who I'm going up against, what style, quicker, stronger, whatever. I can handle this guy. I can take this guy because I've got enough counters that I know I've at least got one or two things that will keep him at bay.
I don't want to say you ever get comfortable in this league because people are always really good and working hard. I think my first year as a rookie, I learned a lot of new technique and it was a good wake up moment. And I think by my second year, I started really having a lot of confidence in what I am good at and how to get better and, what a coming season, comes at you, with and who the players are and how to prepare different ways. And so, from that point on, I really felt like I had a pretty decent tool bag to bring to the office.
Hey, let's go back in time before we get out of here, Alex. Can I get a Marshawn Lynch, Cal Bear? I don't know. Was he eating Skittles back in the day? What do we got on a young Marshawn before he became?
I mean, I just remember so early in the O-line room, I didn't know anything about, football back then really. And the seniors in the room were looking at, man, that new freshman running back, like I've never seen a guy move like that. And they like from day one, they recognized right away that like he was a rare talent. And, that was in like training camp. And like he just runs and he turns on a dime. This guy's special. And like, and then the rest is history from there. Like he was, kind of untackleable through all of college.
Yeah.
Was he a guy? I mean, I just out of curiosity, real quick, was he? I think the perception of him from a maybe media, and I guess because of media to a fan standpoint, is he's so quiet, he's so reserved. Is that who he is in your experience, or is Marshawn a totally different person when the reporters aren't in the room, the cameras aren't in the room?
I'd say he's a different person when he's not put on a spotlight. He can be quiet and not really want to talk to media, but then he also does like amazing things. I remember like back when he was in Buffalo, he did his like Chili's commercial or something. The ambiance or the decor, like he did like pretty funny things like that. And you'd be like, just very fun, energetic kind of guy. I remember wrestling with him one time in like before our weight room session. And like I wrestled in college or not college, high school. So like I thought I was pretty good at wrestling. And Marshawn had never wrestled before. So like, oh, I can take this guy down. And he was such an athlete that it was very difficult to like try to get anything on him. I was like, oh, that didn't work.
Are you trying to do this till you're 40, Alex? Are you setting goals like that?
I'm taking 1 year at a time. Seeing how this year goes and seeing how the body feels at the end of it all, and then taking it from there.
Okay. And you're coming to us today through our friends at Special Olympics. Why has that been something that has been important to you? It's on your heart? We've done a lot of work with amazing people over there, so I'm sure there's something special for you too.
Yeah, I got involved last year with them, and we did a big thing because it was all virtual and everything. So I did a big like virtual send off and teamed up, and it was a fun adventure. And in past Pro Bowls, we've teamed up with doing different Special Olympic activities, and it was just fun. They're always really energetic. The mission they accomplish, and every day they come out and try to get people involved, and inclusive society. I mean, there are just so many ways the Special Olympics are doing great work every day, year in, year out.
This was awesome. I had a ton of fun. I'm sure you did too, Verderam. So Alex,
absolutely.
Thanks for making time. Good luck the rest of the way here. Hope you guys get in the playoffs. I know our the guy who runs our video team, Hunter Armour, is the biggest 49ers fan of the planet. So he'd love to see it as well. So thanks so much.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
And no problem. Best of luck.